Night has a way of replaying what you wish you could forget. The faces, the words, the betrayal, the way someone you trusted, someone you opened your heart to, turned around and used that access to break you. You stare at the ceiling and the same question loops in your mind like a broken record. God, why did you let them hurt me? It doesn't feel like a theological question. It feels like a cry from the deepest part of you. Because you weren't just hurt, you were shaped by that pain. And if you're honest, part of you isn't just angry at them. Part of you is quietly angry at him. This message matters because so many believers are walking around carrying wounds they don't know how to talk to God about. They love Jesus, but behind the worship songs and the "I'm fine," there's a knot in their chest that says, if you really loved me, why didn't you stop them? This is for the one who was cheated on, lied to, abandoned, manipulated. For the one whose parents didn't protect them. For the one whose friend turned into a stranger overnight. For the one who trusted a Christian and got broken instead of blessed. It matters because until you bring this question to Jesus, a part of your heart stays locked away, believing God was a silent witness to your suffering and didn't care. Imagine her. We'll call her Anna. She's sitting in her car in a parking lot, hands gripping the steering wheel long after the engine is off. Her eyes are burning, but no tears fall. She's cried so much she's tired of crying. The breakup wasn't just a breakup. It was the end of a future she had already built in her mind. The betrayal wasn't just a betrayal. It was proof, in her thoughts, that she wasn't worth staying for. She trusted this person, prayed with them, included God in the relationship, and still, they lied. Still, they left. Still, they cut her deeper than anyone before. In the middle of that parking lot, she whispers, Jesus, you saw everything. You knew what they were doing. Why did you let this happen? The silence after the question can feel louder than any answer. The internal war begins. One side says, maybe God doesn't really protect me. Maybe I'm on my own. The other side says, no, he's good. He loves me. He has a plan. And in between those two voices is a heart that feels like it's being torn in half. Because you know God is love, but you also know what they did hurt. You know all the verses about God's goodness, but you also know how it felt when you realized the person you trusted was capable of the kind of damage. How do you hold those two realities at the same time? Here's where the story goes deeper. Jesus never promised that people wouldn't misuse their freedom. God gave human beings free will, real choices, real responsibility. And sometimes, tragically, people use that freedom to wound, betray, manipulate, abandon. That is not God's character. That is their choice. When they hurt you, they did not represent him, even if they use his name. But here is the mysterious, painful, beautiful thing. While God does not will their sin, he will not waste your pain. He does not approve of what they did, but he will step into the aftermath and begin to write something redemptive from the ruin. Think of Jesus himself. He was betrayed by one of his closest friends. Judas walked with him, ate with him, saw miracles with him, and still sold him out with a kiss. Another friend, Peter, swore he would never leave and denied even knowing him 3 times in his darkest hour. If anyone understands what it feels like to be hurt by people who had access to your heart, it's Jesus. And yet, he didn't let their actions rewrite his identity or cancel his purpose. He felt the pain fully. He wept. He bled. But then he rose, not as a victim of their choices, but as the victor, turning their worst into God's greatest. This is the perspective shift. The question is not just, why did you let them hurt me? But what will you do with what they did? Jesus doesn't come to you and say, it's fine, get over it. He comes to you with scars in his hands and says, I know what it is to be wounded. I will sit with you in this. I will heal what they broke. I will teach you who you are apart from their choices. The hurt they caused is real. The loss is real. The anger, the confusion, the grief, it's all real. But so is his ability to take what was meant to destroy you and use it to deepen you, strengthen you, and free you. There comes a turning point, And it rarely happens in one dramatic moment. It happens slowly, like a sunrise. One day, Anna is in that same car, in another parking lot. The pain is still there, but something is different. Instead of only asking, "Why did you let them hurt me?" she hears another question rising in her spirit. "What have you shown me about you in this?" She remembers the night she thought she wouldn't make it, but his peace covered her mind just enough to sleep. She remembers the days she had no strength left, but somehow she got up anyway. She remembers the conversations she had with Jesus that were more honest than any prayer she'd ever prayed before. For the first time, she realizes, "I knew about Jesus before this, but I've met him in a different way because of this." Slowly, her identity starts to shift. She stops defining herself as the one they hurt and starts seeing herself as the one Jesus is healing. She sets boundaries she never had the courage to set before. She recognizes red flags she used to ignore. She stops apologizing for needing respect and starts recognizing that being kind doesn't mean being a doormat. The hurt didn't come from God, but the wisdom, the strength, the new standards rising in her. That's him. He is not the author of the wound, but he is absolutely the author of the healing. This doesn't mean what they did was okay. It doesn't mean you have to stay in abusive situations, minimize your pain, or rush your process. Jesus is not asking you to pretend it didn't hurt. He is inviting you to bring the hurt into his hands and let him show you that your story does not end at the moment they broke you. The cross looked like the end of Jesus' story too until it wasn't. In the same way, that moment, the betrayal, that heartbreak might look like the chapter that ruined your life. Jesus is quietly saying, "Watch me turn it into the chapter that remade you." So why did God let them hurt you? Not because he wanted you broken, not because he didn't care, not because you deserved it, but because he refuses to cancel human freedom and at the same time, he refuses to let their sin have the final word over your destiny. He chose instead to step into your story through Jesus, to sit with you in the ashes, to hold your shaking heart, and to lead you forward one step at a time into a future that is not defined by what they did, but by what he is doing. And here is the final truth I want to leave echoing in your heart. They may have written the painful paragraph, but Jesus holds the pen to the ending. They hurt you, but they do not get to decide who you become. God does. In his hands, you are not just a wounded person, you are a story in progress, a testimony in the making. The question, "Why did you let them hurt me?" may not get every answer you want, but this one answer is enough to stand on. I will heal you. I will use this. I will not waste a single tear. They marked you with pain. Jesus is marking you with purpose. And that is how you know what they did is not where your story ends.